And hello, everybody. We are back again. It's your bearded brothers. We know you've missed us. We haven't been around for a while. Been busy with things like school and jobs and life. And also, there hasn't been a ton of news for us to talk about, really. Although now there is.
There's
Um,
always news.
and we do see, I am, of course, your bearded brother, Matt.
Only anyone cares about is Loki, so there you go.
And there's the Loki right there, preening himself in front of you. Looking right at the
Showing
camera,
off.
going, of course, it's me. It's me.
I am the star of the show. Everyone knows it.
Everyone knows it. And right behind him is his personal scratching post, Chris.
Pretty much.
The only thing Chris is good for is feeding Loki and being a perch.
More or less.
At least as far as Loki's concerned. Until Grandma gets home, and then Grandma can deal with him for a little bit.
She doesn't like dealing with his attitude either, so.
But there are some things we're going to talk about. Today's big thing that we're going to do is go through the NFL draft. We're going to look at each team individually and what they did for 7 rounds. And we're going to rank. We're going to give them a letter grade as to how we think they did. We've already had some talks before this. We're going to disagree on quite a few teams. In general, Chris is a nicer person than I am. In general, I'm a bigger jerk, and I am much more stringent about how I feel about things. And it always is for me with teams and looking at rookies and what I think they should have done versus what they actually did in the draft. Even with the benefit of hindsight, I look at it and I go, I still think you're stupid. But I will state, I am going to keep track of these rookies, especially like the first and second rounders and maybe some of the ones that got taken later, depending on who they are. I, at the end of the season, will adjust my grades based on how well the team performed and the rookies performed from the class to reflect what happened on the field. And I will eat my mea culpas if I am wrong. If the rookies did not in any way significantly help the team to do what they do, then there's no point in me adjusting anything. I will say that as well. Because there may be some teams that drafted players that wind up with good records anyway, but the rookies they drafted don't contribute anything significant. So, we'll see. First, we want to talk about the fact that I think I want to start with the Minnesota Timberwolves are headed to the Western Conference Final. We still don't know who they're going to play because Denver pushed the Thunder to Game 7. So they're either going to play the Thunder or the Nuggets. We don't know who it's going to be yet. But the joke currently is those two teams are fighting to see who the Wolves are going to stomp in 5 games. Because the Wolves have been an absolute beast of a team in the playoffs this year.
Only in 5 games, though.
Yes. They may actually make it to the NBA Finals this year. In fact, they're odds-on favorites now.
We'll see.
Currently, the Pacers beat out the Cavaliers, who were the odds-on favorites. And the Knicks... The Knicks and the Celtics have Game 6 tonight. And we'll see if the Celtics can push the Knicks to Game 7 without Jason Tatum, who blew out his Achilles.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of that, little baseball news. Currently, the Twins have an 11-game win streak. Now, you think that would get them somewhere, but they started the season so poorly, they're still 5 games back. So we'll see if they make it into the historic win streaks column. I have my doubts.
It could happen.
It could. They're playing really good baseball right now. So, and they just beat the Orioles the other day, and they're about to kick off a Brewers
Mm-hmm.
tonight. A series with the Brewers. So outside of that, hockey. Let's see here. The Capitals got nipped out yesterday. They lost to the Hurricanes, who beat them 4-1. The Oilers beat out the Golden Knights in, I want to say it was 5 games as well. I want to say it was 4-1 that they won with. Looks like Dallas is about to. They did lose last night in decisive fashion, but they still have a 3-2 game lead on the Jets. The Panthers absolutely stomped Toronto last game, 6-1. And took a 3-2 game on Toronto's home ice, no less. And took a 3-2 game series lead over Toronto. So we're going to have to see how all of that figures out right now. See if it'll be the Panthers in Carolina or whether or not Toronto will be able to make any sort of a comeback at any point in time. And whether or not it'll be Jets and Oilers or whether it'll be Stars and Oilers. I know who I'm rooting for in that case.
Fair.
Jets Oilers makes it a little more interesting, but I think I'd still root for the same team.
Yeah, probably.
But anyway, point is, there have been some interesting things like that. Also, football news. We do have a couple of pieces of football news. And I don't know if you want to do that today as well, or if you want to save that for another day.
Whatever you want to do. I got nothing going on today.
Okay, I was going to ask, do you want to do the record, like go game by game for the Vikings schedule and win-loss?
Oh, you want to do the Viking schedule win-loss?
Just the Viking schedule win-loss today.
I guess we'll see how long the draft takes us to get through, depending on how many arguments we get into. But if it's not super long, then yeah, I think we can do a
All right, if
short
not, we'll do another
segment.
video where we go through the different teams and what we think their records might be based on the schedule releases. There were some good ones. Apparently, the Colts got in some trouble.
They did. They had to take down theirs.
They had to take theirs down. Apparently, because they used Minecraft stuff, and they had a dolphin wearing the number of Tyreek Hill getting arrested by a police boat.
Yes, they did. It was funny though. I'm not gonna lie to you. It was funny.
It's a little bit too far.
I don't know. I think it's perfectly fine because the joke of in Minecraft has always been a thing of like, I'm gonna kill the president in Minecraft, like as a joke, right? Like
so that's kind of been a thing.
So I get what they were doing, but I think they pissed off just a few too many people.
Yeah. The Cowboys one was pretty good. They had, for anybody who didn't see that one, they had one person like sitting in a chair and another person behind them doing like they'd look at what the team was and then they'd try to figure out how they could get the other person to guess the team without saying the name. Yeah. Which was, for the Packers, he literally just picked up a can of Easy Cheese and he squeezed it onto the leg of his partner.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. I laughed. I thought that was really funny. There were some really, really good ones. They had one. Oh, who was it? It was Buffalo. They said, we should just get AI. Just get AI to do it. And he was shooting basketballs, and so they brought in Allen Iverson. AI.
That's terrible.
Oh, it was funny to me. I laughed. I couldn't help it. I didn't see the Vikings one. I'm sure they had a good one.
I have not yet. I have not.
I'm sure they had a good one. But yeah, overall, the schedule releases were pretty good. So, with all of that being said, the last bit is, let me see here. Derrick Henry got an extension.
Yep, Derrick Henry got his extension.
Derrick Henry got an extension. Justin Tucker was released.
Shocking nobody.
It's not like he had a
It was
great
a
year
football.
last.
It was a football decision. Now, granted, to be fair, like you were about to say, he did not have a great last year.
He really didn't. He looked off last year for whatever reason, even before the
Jeez, I
allegations
wonder what
came
that
out.
could be.
I think that was even before the allegations came out, though.
Apparently, he knew about the allegations beforehand, though. So it's hard
So
to know.
it's hard to know. Yeah.
But I, I'll say this: I would be shocked if that didn't play at least a factor.
I would agree with you, 100%.
Oh, did the trade was that? I don't think we talked about the trade
Did not talk
previously.
about the trade, which is
Okay.
Pickens got traded to Dallas for what, like a fourth or a third or something.
I think it was like a fourth. Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, it was a stupidly low price. It feels to me like Pittsburgh was just done with his antics.
Which I get, but he's not like Antonio Brown levels, right? Like
No,
so,
he's
like,
not. But they
or
had
even that other guy that used to.
so yeah, he literally got traded for like a fourth or something. It was ridiculously low crap.
Yeah,
Uh,
it was a choice.
it was a choice.
I just it bothers me
Considering
because
their
like,
draft, it's like they did stuff.
they did stuff, they traded stuff away that made no sense. I don't know. I don't know if they know what they're doing at this point. And the Cowboys are actually going to be maybe good this year. Ew.
Yeah, that's the other thing I said was like,
Yeah. Ew.
we'll get there when we get there, but yeah.
It won't take long either, by the way.
No. So we're going to start ranking and how we did this. So what did we do? We're ranking this alphabetically by state and or city.
Yep.
And we'll go because I have all of the draft picks, I will list what the team did.
I have them on my little monitor.
Yeah, I will list what the team did draft pick wise, where the draft pick is from, and what round they did, and then we'll alternate giving our opinions between them. So I'll be the one that gives out like, here's what they drafted, and then we'll start with Arizona, and Chris can give his opinion first.
Yeah.
And then I'll give a grade and opinion, and then we might have a discussion if our grade is like significantly different.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a few that I think are going to be significantly different.
I already know for sure there's quite a few that are going to be pretty significantly different.
So, with that being said, the 2025 draft starting with the Arizona Cardinals. They started in round 1 with Walter Nolan, a DT from Ole Miss. They went round 2, Will Johnson, cornerback, Michigan. Jordan Birch, the edge from Oregon, was their round 3. Cody Simon, LB Ohio State, was round 4. Denzel Burke, a cornerback from Ohio State, in round 5. Hayden Connor, offensive guard from Texas, round 6. And their final one, Keaton Crawford. Keaton Crawford, a safety out of Nevada, round 7. Chris, what is your grade?
So I graded them a B minus. They filled some good needs with players that I do like. I really like Walter Nolan. I think Will Johnson was a steal because we had him graded as a round 1 pick. I think Jordan Birch is a pretty decent edge. I think Cody Simmons is a slightly underrated linebacker. And then everything else that kind of happened there, Denzel Burke, Hayden Connor, Crawford, I don't have enough of an opinion to know if those are great picks or not. Being that I don't know them really well, I'm going to go on the edge of probably looser picks, but again, that's round 5, 6, and 7. So I liked most of what they did. I think they could have maybe gotten slightly better value, but I think Walter Nolan and Will Johnson are your big, huge swings, and I think that they'll end up being really good for them. I think Jordan Birch is a solid pick for the round that they picked him in, and same thing with Cody Salmon.
Yep. I went higher on them. I actually gave them an A, primarily because I did a little more research on Burke and Crawford. And I think both of them could turn into starters and were great value where they picked them. I was amazed Crawford slipped as far as he did, to be quite frank. I think he could have gone a couple of rounds earlier, and I wouldn't have batted an eyelash. So yeah, I think both of those could turn into, they won't start this year, but given time, I think both of them could become solid starters. Obviously, Johnson starts this year if he isn't injured or starting on the PUP, which reminds me there are 2 players starting on the PUP this year. Um, and they will be ineligible to play this entire season because of when they've been placed on the PUP, and that's Jonathan Brooks for the Panthers and one of the guys for the Browns that I cannot remember the name of. It's a triple name.
Oh,
It's their linebacker edge that got hurt late last year.
yeah. I know who you're talking about. I don't remember his name.
I cannot remember his name either. But yes, I really thought they did a good job. They filled everything except wide receiver, which they could have used another one in, and they didn't. They didn't grab one.
Yeah.
I wish they would have.
I will say they did grab an undrafted free agent in Bryson Green as a wide receiver. I actually have heard of him. I've heard he's actually a pretty decent wide receiver to not go drafted, so that might be the plan that they had with that, but we'll see.
We'll see. I still had, like I said, they did a good job, so I'm not mad at them.
Yeah.
And that's why it's an A and not like an A plus or anything stellar. They did an A job. They filled almost every need they did. I like the players they filled with, so I'm not mad. I think that's an A. Good job. You did what you needed to do.
I was floating between a B or a B minus, so like we're not that far off.
We're not that far off. No. I think I was a little nicer to them than you were, but it's because I looked at what they needed, and I went,
looked at more of the players at the end there. Yeah,
1 through 7, didn't trade, didn't make any big moves, and you got great value, and especially that's really why they got the A to me instead of like a B plus. Will Johnson in round 2 brought my grade up. I was like, that's just stupid.
That was a great pick for sure.
Yeah. All right, moving along down to Atlanta. Atlanta grabbed in round 1 Jalen Walker, linebacker edge out of Georgia. Then they traded back into round 1 to get James Pierce Jr., the edge from Tennessee. Then in round 3, they got Xavier Watts, a safety from Notre Dame. They got Bill Bowman Jr., a safety from Oklahoma in round 4. And Jack Nelson, an OT from Wisconsin, in round 7. I gave this a frickin' C minus. Atlanta, you done screwed up. You paid a first rounder next year to the Rams to move back into the first round. First rounder next year, a second rounder this year, to take the edge that you should have taken where you grabbed Jalen Walker. You could have taken James Pierce Jr. right there and just kept your second rounder and your first rounder next year. But instead, you're stupid. Now, you needed a wide receiver, you didn't grab one, but you did get one in UDFA, Nick Nash, that I thought you could have got in the 6th or 7th round. I was very happy that you got him. I think he's going to turn out to be great for you, but I did not factor in any UDFAs into my rankings. I like Watts, and I like Pierce Jr., and that's about it. That's why you get a C minus. You done goofed. You done goofed. That's all I can say, Atlanta. Not excited about this draft for you.
That's fair. We're not going to be too far off. I gave him a C plus. I'm not a fan of.
Grade.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the Jalen Walker pick at all. He's not a linebacker. I don't care what anyone says. He's not a fucking linebacker. He just isn't. He's an edge. That's what he is. And then you picked up James Pierce Jr., who's a better edge. I just don't understand it. However, I do like your Xavier Watts pickup. I also do like Bowman. I think Bowman is a sneaky pick there. I think he's going to be better than a lot of people expect him to be. Jack Nelson is fine. And I did add UDFAs into my list just slightly. So that's what allowed them to bump up because they did end up picking a wide receiver out of there. That's a decent wide receiver. So that does bump them up to a C plus in my opinion. They overall picked decent players, but the value was mostly garbage outside of like a handful of picks.
I really feel like you probably could have. Here's the thing. I feel like you could have gotten Walker in round 2 and not traded.
Probably could have.
If you wanted him that badly, I feel like you could have gotten him. He would have probably slid to round 2 and you could have gotten him there.
Yeah. And if you really wanted a linebacker, I promise you there were definitely better
There
linebackers
were
than Jalen
definitely
Walker
better
still on the
picks
board.
available. Yes,
So I
definitely.
just don't get the Jalen Walker pick whatsoever. I think Jack Nelson's a seventh round pick that I just don't care about. And the other three, I'm pretty okay with. I like James Pierce, I like Xavier Watson, I like Billy Bowman.
I don't know enough
Um,
about Billy Bowman, but I do like Watts and I do like Pierce.
yeah. So and then of course the Nash pick from UDFA's. So that gives them a C plus, but it is barely a C plus. If it wasn't for some of those picks, we would probably be in the same grading point.
Probably.
So
All right, moving along to Baltimore. They have a lot of picks, so bear
they
with me
have a
here.
lot of picks.
They start in round one with Malachi Starks, a safety out of Georgia. They grab Mike Green in round two, the edge from Marshall. You and I talked about him.
hmm
Emory Jones Jr., the OT from LSU in round three. Teddy Buchanan, LB Cal, round four. Carson Vincent, the OT from Texas, A&M in round five. Belial Cohn, cornerback, Western Michigan, round six. Tyler Loop, place kicker, Arizona, round six. LaJonte Wester, wide receiver, Colorado, round six. Aeneas Peebles, DT, Virginia Tech, round six. Robert Robert Longerbeam, cornerback, Rutgers, round. There's
Great
some
name,
good,
dude.
yeah. There are some
There's
great
some
names in
great
here.
names
By
in here.
Robert Longerbeam, cornerback, Rutgers, round six, and Garrett Dellinger, offensive guard, LSU, round seven. Chris, your grade, sir.
So I will first start out saying they filled all of their needs. So that's a plus in my book. They got a player for all of the needs that they needed. However, I think value per player could have been better. I think the first three picks were good. I don't like the Teddy Buchanan pick at that spot. I think Carson Vincent is okay at 5. I think Cone at 6 may have been a slight reach. I have nothing to say about Loop, their punt kicker. I got nothing on him. I think LaJonte Wester was okay. I do actually like Peebles in the 6th round. I think Longerbeam is actually a pretty good pick in the 6th round as well, and even Dillinger in the 7th. So it's like a weird mesh of I think they overpicked early on. So the first three picks they were good, then they overpicked for a couple picks, and then they got good value afterwards. So I ended up giving them a B plus. Um, I think that they could have done a little better for value wise, but they filled all of their needs with solid talent to good talent. So I'm fairly happy with what they did. Like I said, I think they could have done a little bit better, but we're not that far away from an A grade at this point.
See, I gave them an A plus. Um,
Ooh,
to
okay.
me, to me, they filled everything they had. You got some great talent. I mean, Starks and Green are obvious day one starters.
Yeah,
100%, not even going to miss it. I guess what they're going to do is kick Emory Jones inside the guard
that's
because
what it sounds like.
that's what it sounds like they want to do. He's played guard before, so
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense. So that's your offensive guard to tie up. I guess Vincent is going to be a tackle, probably a backup tackle for right now, but he also will probably start on that line at some point. Um, Cone is not a bad cornerback. I think he's going to be more of a nickel than he's going to be
Mhm.
anything, and he's probably going to have to work with longer beam, compete against him for that. Wester is again probably a fourth wide receiver, um, but yeah,
Mhm.
he could be good as well. Peebles probably becomes a solid starter as your defensive tackle. Dellinger might even become a starter someday as well. That's why I gave them an A plus. I think they just like the only picks that I'm not a big fan of are probably Buchanan. I get why they picked Loop where they did. I said in here that you got a place kicker to replace one that may be suspended. Well, you cut him, so you don't have to worry about that now. So,
That's
like
true.
I said, Peebles, I'm a big fan of. I think they did an excellent job navigating the draft, and considering they had a lot of later round picks, I think they did a good job finding value in that later round, that round six
In the later rounds
especially.
for sure. Yeah.
Like that's why you get an A plus to me. You did a really good job identifying talent that slipped for whatever reason. And I don't think we have much to say about that because I think we're still within the same.
We're still roughly in the ballpark. I don't disagree with you. I actually had them floating between a B minus to or an A minus to a B plus, so
Yeah,
we're not
we're
that
not
far
that far
apart.
off. Moving along to Buffalo. Um, they grab Maxwell Hairston, the cornerback from Kentucky, in round 1. Fast little guy, too. Uh, TJ Sanders, DT from South Carolina, in round 2. Landon Jackson, an edge from Arkansas, in round 3. Dion Walker, defensive tackle, Kentucky, in round 4. Jordan Hancock, a cornerback from Ohio State, in round 5. Jackson Hawes, the tight end from Georgia Tech, in round 5. Dorian Strong, a cornerback from Virginia Tech, in round 6. Chase Lunt, an OT from UConn, in round 6. And Caden Prather, wide receiver from Maryland, in round 7. B plus to me. You basically filled every need you had except a safety. I think Hairston will be a good quarterback. I think you missed on Johnson and Revel, but I get it. The injuries, if they play this year, I think both of them will put up better numbers than Hairston. But that's just, like I said, that's my feeling on it. I think currently Landon Jackson will probably sit behind Bosa, but given Bosa's injury history, there's a good chance he'll get in this year and will wind up playing and look pretty good. Likely that Sanders starts this year, given that Ogunjoboy has to sit out for 6 games. I really do like Dorian Strong as a cornerback. I do wonder if they might look at moving him to safety, though.
They could.
It's not horrible. So they did a good job.
Maybe. If he's got enough speed, they might.
Yeah. They did a good job with them. Could have done a little better, but it certainly wasn't the drizzling craps.
Right.
So, B+. Chris, you're great.
Fair enough. I'm not too far off from you. I gave him a B-. My reasoning here is I do like Maxwell Hairston. I think he's a solid corner for the... Well, while we didn't grade him as high as some of the others, I think the fact that he wasn't injured, he's got a great personality. I think he fits that locker room very well.
Fast, too. Fast.
Very fast. TJ Sanders, I think, is an excellent pickup in the 2nd round. I love Landon Johnson in the 3rd. This is where things go to a place I don't like. I didn't like the Dion Walker pick. I did not like the Jordan Hancock pick. That was a huge reach in my opinion.
Yes.
I think Jackson Hawes is okay.
But did you really need
But again, at a 5th round pick, well, do you need another tight end in the 5th round? Feels like a little too high again. I do. Then we go back to I like the Dorian Strong pick. I like the Chase Lund pick. I like the Prater pick. So, it's one of those things where like mostly did okay. Then they fumbled kind of in the mid round, and then late round they got kind of back on it again. So I didn't want to give them a super high grade because none of the players really wow me. But I think they got pretty good value overall, and I think they got a couple of really good starters. So, and they filled most of their needs outside of safety, which I think they did. Let me double check. I think they did address. Well, they did get some UDFA defensive backs, which they might transition into safeties. So we'll see. Overall, I think they did good. I think they could have done better, but overall good.
All right, moving along to Carolina, the Panthers. They started in round 1 with Tet McMillan, Teteroa, wide receiver from Arizona. They grabbed Nick Skirton, the edge from Texas A&M, in round 2. Princely Umanamielen, the edge from Ole Miss, in round 3. Boy, is that a mouthful.
I know, right?
Trevor Etienne, running back Georgia, round 4. Lathan Ranson, safety, Ohio State, round 4. Cam Jackson, DT, Florida, round 5. Mitchell Evans, tight end, Notre Dame, round 5. And Jimmy Horn Jr., wide receiver, Colorado, round 6. Chris, your thoughts?
So first I'll just say my grade, and I'll explain why. I gave him an A. I really, really like this draft. I love the Tet McMillan pick. I know that you were a little confused by it, but I had them actually picking Tet here because I believe that they need a more solid number 1 wide receiver, and I think Tet's going to fill that role. I think getting Nick Scorton in the second round is a fucking steal. I think getting Princely in the third round is also a steal. Trevor Etienne, I had it as a potential late second rounder on my board. They got him in the fourth. Really like that. Lathan Ransom is a solid safety in the fourth. I'm not a big fan of the Cam Jackson pick, but I think they got right back on it with Mitchell Evans in the fifth. He's a tight end that I think is even better than the one that Buffalo picked in the fifth round, so I actually prefer him. And Jimmy Horn Jr. is what I like to call a Hail Mary. He's, I think, got decent potential, but he didn't play a whole lot, and he played it at Colorado, so hard to say. But that's a Hail Mary that could end up working out very well for him. Overall, I actually really do like what they drafted. I think they got good value at the picks they picked. I don't think they made any major mistakes outside of the Cam Jackson pick, and even that's not like a big mistake. That was a fifth round pick that they're just kind of taking a chance on. So overall, I really liked what they did.
All right. Also, I'm going to amend my grade because I graded before I knew Brooks was going to be out for the season.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, I'm bumping them up to a B plus from a B. They were a solid B for me, but the B plus now because ETN makes a way more sense. With Brooks being out, he's going to be a good change of pace back. I really like what they're doing there. That makes a lot of sense. The reason that they didn't get into the A territory is they did not draft a corner, which I think they needed. So that did bring their grade down for me. Otherwise, really solid. I think what they did. I like Tet. I like Skirton. ETN is a steal in round 4. I don't know enough about Umana Malin, but I do think he could have gone round 2 as well. Unfortunately, Ranson is where my knowledge goes off base. I didn't watch enough of his tape to know whether or not I'd like him or not. I did watch Mitchell Evans. I liked what I saw there. And Jimmy Horn Jr., again, wish you would have seen him more on the field, but I feel like had he been on the field, he would have been the second best wide receiver at Colorado.
Probably. Also, as a side note, they Carolina did cover some of their cornerback needs by picking up a couple UDFAs. So they're hoping to get some good production out of those guys there.
We'll have to see. We will have to see. Moving right along, Chicago. I already know Chris and I are going to disagree on this one.
We're going to majorly disagree on this one. Yep.
So let's get started on this. They start with Colston Loveland, the tight end from Michigan in round 1. They grab Luther Bird in the third, a wide receiver from Missouri in round 2. They grab Ozzy Trapilo, an OT from Boston College in round 2. They grab Shamar Turner, a DT from Texas A&M in round 2. They grab Ruben Hippolyte II, LB from Maryland in round 4. They grab Za Frazier, a cornerback from Utah State in round 5. Luke Newman, the OT from Michigan State in round 6. And Kyle Managai, running back from Rutgers in round 7. Look, I know Chris is going to disagree with me, but this is a D for me. And I'll tell you why. I'm not trying to be mean. And Chris and I are going to disagree on this. Not necessarily the way I'm going to state it, but you drafted the second best tight end in the draft while the best one was still sitting on the board. Now, could have been looking scheme, don't care. I still think you've got to look at overall production compared to scheme. That's just me. The later rounds didn't stun me. You reached with Trapilo. That was a horrible pick, in my opinion. You could have gotten him later. And I think Hippolyte II, where you got him, I don't like that either. I think that's a bit of a reach. Like me some Za Frazier, though. He's probably going to be a starter for you at some point. And Newman and Managai are just, those are your shots in the dark. Let's see what happens with them. Love me some LB3. Like me some Shamar Turner. I think those are both really good grabs. So, for me, your best picks were LB3, Turner, and Frazier. And that's it. And you really kind of, to me, you fumbled too much of the bag. I don't hate Loveland. I want to say that outright. I think you could have traded down and gotten him with some picks later and gotten, like, maybe beefed up some more stuff in your draft. That's how I look at it, is you picked him at pick number 10, and I think that was too high. I think you could have traded back in round 1 and done better. that's again, that's a quibble. Um, but yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I think you reached for too many players. And I think you waited to grab players that you should have tried to grab. Waited to grab positions where I think you had better options available earlier. Just, again, personal choice, personal thoughts. Chris, go ahead and disagree with me and tell me how stupid I am.
I gave them a B minus. I'm just going to be outright, just tell you they're in my B category. They filled most of the needs that they had. We could argue value if you want, which is fine. If that's going to be your big reason, I think that means you should actually probably be in C category personally, but that's just me. If you would have been in C's, I could understand it. I think D is a bit, um, what's the word I'm looking for?
Harsh? Dickish?
Unjustified, personally. Colston Loveland, let's be honest. You and I had Loveland and Tyler Warren as first round picks.
Yes.
They went both in the first round.
Yes.
Now you can argue till you're blue in the face.
Not in mine. I had him as a potential first rounder, but I only had one team that really needed a tight end, the Colts, and I had them taking Warren. You had the Chargers taking Loveland. I did not.
Yes.
I thought he might slip out entirely just because there wasn't a huge need for tight ends.
So I figured both would go in the first round. I thought Tyler Warren, and I will still say that I think Tyler Warren's a better overall tight end. But based on what we know of Ben Johnson coming in, what we know they like to use as a scheme and how they like to use their tight ends, I can understand why they went with Loveland over Warren. They don't use their tight ends in blocking situations, so Tyler Warren would be kind of wasted in that way because Tyler Warren's a significantly good blocker, especially run blocker. They just wouldn't use him that way. I think they both have pretty good equal amount of hands, in my opinion. I think Loveland's got a better reach technically, but it's pretty close to the same. I think Loveland's a better red zone threat than Warren is, but that's just a personal opinion. I get what they did. Do I still think that they would have been better with Tyler Warren? Maybe. It's hard to say 100%. But I can understand why they did what they did. With that being said, I don't necessarily disagree that they would have been able to still get him if they traded down. But I'm wondering if maybe they had gotten some intel that maybe another team was willing to potentially grab him before they could, and they really didn't want that to happen. Who knows? You know how that happens sometimes, where people will put out false reports or false feelers to get a team to pick a player earlier than they normally would.
They may have been the Chargers, which were 5 or 6 picks after them, so they may not have had a lot of room to move down because you pretty much know what the Colts are going to take. That wasn't a secret.
Yeah,
I think everybody in the world grabbed that one. And then what do the Chargers do? Do the Chargers actually take Loveland? Maybe because somebody they know. Yeah, I get where you're coming from on that, but at the same time, I'm like, I still think.
So that's kind of where I'm at with. I get it, but that's kind of where I'm at with that. I don't hate the pick. I think it could have been better, but I don't hate the pick. Luther Burden III, fantastic pick. I love Luther. I love me some Luther. I think you are sleeping hard on Ozzie. I think Ozzie is actually going to be a really good offensive tackle from everything I've seen. I think it's the second round, you could argue maybe you could have got him in the third, maybe, but they didn't have a third round pick, so maybe you could argue they could trade down. I don't know. I still think he's actually a very good offensive tackle. I do like Shamar Turner. I think that's pretty good. I will agree that Ruben Hippolyte was a reach and a half. I hate that pick, absolutely. I think Zoff Frazier, fantastic. And then Luke and Kyle are obviously kind of throws at darts, see if they work out. Maybe they won't, maybe they will, who knows. So overall, I liked what they've done. I think they got fairly good value at their picks. I think some of the decisions they made definitely stink of wanting to fit their scheme very specifically, wanting to make Ben Johnson happy. I think they've done that. Now, whether or not it'll be the right course of action, we're going to find out. But ultimately, I think that this was a decent draft, so I gave them a B minus.
I was not impressed with it, and they're going to be a D for me. Like I said, I'm going to keep track of how Loveland does and how Burden does and how I'm not really going to be. You're not going to really be able to track.
You're not going to be able to really, yeah.
But if
he's starting and he's not giving up a bunch of sacks, that's probably the best.
That's exactly. But yeah, I'd love to see how all of this turns out for them. And if they turn out to have a really good season and these guys are, like Loveland especially, is integral to it, you know what? I'll reverse course. I got no problem with that. I got no problem saying I'm wrong. That's why I don't have a problem being a little bit harder on my grades. I don't have a problem, and I'm not saying you do, but there's a lot of people that we know that, you can't admit that you're wrong, that you made a mistake. I am fully on board with screwing
Oh,
up and
listen,
making
if Loveland
mistakes.
is just absolute crap and he turns out to be a bust this year, or even in the next this year does basically nothing, and the year after that just also not good, yeah, I'll look at it and go, yeah, you were more right. They should have been maybe drafting as a C grade or even like a low C, early D
Yeah,
kind of grading.
we'll see.
Um, I mean, like based on that note, if we went back and looked at our
Or
last,
if Trapilo gives
uh,
up a ton of sacks or something, it turns out
yeah, exactly,
not to be a very
that
good
was really
starter,
not
you'll
great.
be like,
Um, That was pretty rough. Or like for example, if we were to look back at our grades from last year and looking at Arizona and thinking that their drafting was great because of the wide receiver they got, yeah, he didn't do so much.
no, he did not. He did not.
So
That didn't work out very well for them.
no, it did not.
No.
So
He had one really
I'm
awesome game and then just kind of went silent.
yeah, very very quiet. I still think he'll be solid. He's just not clearly going to be the big number one they were expecting to get.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I don't have anything else to say. We're not going to convince
No,
each other that either of us are wrong on this
no, of
yet,
course not.
but that's okay. Moving along to Cincinnati, the Bengals.
The
They
Bengals.
start with Shamar Stewart, an edge from Texas A&M in round one. They grab Demetrius Knight Jr., an linebacker from South Carolina in round two. They get Dylan Fairchild, an offensive guard from Georgia in round three. They get Barrett Carter, a linebacker from Clemson in round four. Then they grab Jalen Rivers, the offensive guard from Miami in round five, and Taj Brooks, a running back from Texas Tech in round six. Chris, your thoughts?
This is a C. I I like two, maybe three of these picks. They did not fill all their needs, not even close. I realize that they picked up quite a bit UDFAs, but still, I just I don't get what they were doing here. Shamar Stewart's a solid pick. I think Demetrius Knight is a pretty decent linebacker. Fairchild is a question mark at a third pick or a third round pick. Barrett Carter is a reach at a fourth, even in my opinion. Jalen Rivers is a reach even at a fifth, and then Taj Brooks is a throw a dart at a dartboard and see what the fuck sticks. I don't get what they were doing here, especially considering the fact I think they needed to focus much more on defense, and they got two good defensive players and then a bunch of question marks.
Mm-hmm.
And two of those weren't, and only one of those was even in defense at that point. I don't get it. I was nice just because of the two players. That's it.
I gave him a D.
I get it. I get it. To be honest,
you didn't address your needs. You got an edge. Yay. And you got an okay linebacker. And you got two offensive guards, so hopefully one of them works out.
hopefully one works. Yeah.
Hopefully one works out. But then basically, you've got another reach at linebacker, and everything else was offense. You had 6 picks, half and half, but you didn't address your secondary whatsoever. Which is what doomed you last year. You could score in bunches, but you couldn't stop anybody from scoring. So you doubled down on what you already had that was wrong. Stupid. Stupid. Baka.
Yeah, I was on the edge of giving him a C minus. The only reason I gave him a C is because I really like Shamar Stewart and Demetrius Knight, but that was it.
Like Shamar Stewart, Demetrius Knight, I'm okay with. Everything else, I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Pretty much.
All right.
Pretty much.
Moving along to Cleveland. The Browns. So they start by moving back in round one to grab defensive tackle Mason Graham from Michigan. Then they grab Carson Schlesinger. I think I said that right. The LB from UCLA. Huh?
I think so.
A linebacker from UCLA in round two. Then they grabbed Quinshon Judkins, running back Ohio State in round two. Harold Fannin Jr., tight end, Bowling Green, round three. Dylan Gabriel, quarterback, Oregon, round 3. Dylan Sampson, running back, Tennessee, round 4. And finally, Shadur Sanders, quarterback, Colorado, round 5. Um, this is a B plus. This is a B plus, almost an A for me, in my opinion. Um, did a good job by moving back and getting some extra stuff so that somebody else could move up ahead of you in Jacksonville in this case, and get what they wanted. I know a lot of people thought that was dumb, but I love the Mason Graham pick. I love the idea of if we can't have a good quarterback, nobody else can either. And Mason Graham will certainly help you do that. Not super impressed with Schlesinger, but he's not horrible. Judkins, like Judkins. I like that you're trying to find somebody to take the running back spot. You obviously had some issues there, and Chubb is hurt, and I think he's gone now. I don't think they re-signed him.
From everything I've heard, it sounds like he's going to be going. In
Yeah.
fact, last rumor I heard is that that there's a couple of North teams that are potentially trying to pick him up.
Yes. Love, and I think you got great value for Harold Fannin Jr. Everybody knows I've been banging the drum for him for a while. I think that's an absolutely fantastic pick for them. Dylan Gabriel, I don't like. I don't think that was a good pick there, but okay, whatever. Dylan Sampson, okay, not horrible. Could have done better. I'm not gonna bang you for that. And getting a guy that everybody thought was a round 1 player in round 5 with Shadur Sanders, I think, is absolute mayhem to me, and I absolutely love it. It's absolute mayhem. Yeah, that's hilarious to me. I think you guys did a very, very solid job. The one ding on you and why I couldn't rate you higher, what did you need that you didn't get? A wide receiver. That's your one big fail in this draft, is you did not get a wide receiver. Outside that, I think you did a solid job.
So we're not going to be far off at all. I gave him a B plus. I really like the Mason Graham pick. I'm a little higher on Carson Schwissinger than you were. I think Quinshon Judkins in the second round is also a really good pick. I love the Harold Fannin pick. I've also been agreeing with you that I think he's an underrated tight end. He's got really fantastic hands, and he's speedier than you think he is.
Yes.
Dylan Gabriel is a choice. I don't think it's horrible, but I don't think it's good in the third round.
I really don't think they expected Sanders to drop to 5, so they just grabbed Gabriel there, thinking he was going to be gone soon. But I don't know why you didn't just grab Sanders there.
Most people did want to pick him, to be fair.
Yeah.
Dylan Sampson, I low-key kind of like in the 4th round. I know that you're not super high on him, but I
just don't know enough
about him. I kind of like the choice. I think he's a pretty decent. He's kind of a hard-nosed runner. I kind of like the idea of pairing him with Judkins and seeing what happens. It could be kind of fun. And of course, picking up Shadur Sanders in the 5th. I mean, I didn't have him rated as a first rounder, but I figured he might go in the 1st round. I actually had him rated as like a mid second rounder. So I think they got good value, even if he turns out not to work out. A 5th round pick. I mean, it's not like you really gave up anything for it. So ultimately, it's a B plus because you got some good picks. You did miss out on a wide receiver or two that I think you should have probably picked, but I think you got pretty good value overall. I don't know. I think this is a sneaky good draft from a team that's historically not been good at drafting.
I kind of agree. Should we talk real quick about the rumors about why Sanders dropped?
I mean, we talked about some of those before. On the last one when we were giving sort of our talks about it a little bit.
Well, because the last thing we did was the actual draft.
Yeah, I know, but I mentioned reasons why he could potentially slip out.
Well, it came out kind of after the draft that he did not interview well at all. Came off as entitled. Didn't come off as a good person in the locker room. blamed others for his mistakes. Nothing was his fault. These are all things that supposedly happened in the draft,
Yeah.
Pre-draft. So, and then there's also the worry about how much Dion might get involved.
Some people were worried about that. Yeah.
There were a
And
lot
then
of
there was
teams that.
also like, a lot of other weird things. Like apparently he didn't watch a lot of film. Apparently, when given questions, he couldn't like, especially specifically like the Giants. Apparently, they gave him like a week to look at their playbook, and they asked him questions on the playbook, and he couldn't answer fucking any of their questions about the
Yeah,
playbook, like stuff like that. If now, granted, those are still technically only rumors. There's no proof that any of that happened, but if any of that even slightly holds some weight, I can understand why teams were concerned.
I can as well. Now looking at the rookie minicamp, he's looked pretty good in rookie minicamp.
It's looked okay. I will also say Gabriel's looked better than I expected as well in the little mini camp that we've seen.
Yep.
He can throw. I do have a worry about his size though. He is short as fuck.
He's way shorter than what you think he is. Yeah, you
Yeah,
look at
yeah.
it. All right. Moving right along, the Dallas Cowboys. They start with Tyler Booker, an offensive guard from Alabama, in round 1. They grab Donovan Ezeraku, edge from Boston College, in round 2. Don't ask me to re-say that name. I don't think I'd get it right. Siobhan Revel Jr., cornerback, Eastern Carolina, in round 3. Jaden Blue, running back from Texas, in round 5. Shamar James, linebacker from Florida, round 5. Johnny Cornelius, offensive tackle, round 6. Jay Toya, defensive tackle, UCLA, round 7. Phil Maffa, running back, Clemson, round 7. And Tommy Akinbasote, defensive tackle, Maryland, round 7. Chris, your thoughts?
This is a tough one because I think they started hot and then fell apart and got one last good pick in there before deciding to go to bed. Um, so I'm giving them a B. I really like the Tyler Booker pick. I really like Donovan Ezeraku. I do like Siobhan Revel in the 3rd round. That's a huge steal in my opinion. And then everything falls apart. I think Jaden Blue is not a good pick in the 5th round, to be blunt. I think Shamar James is okay. But again, 5th round material were kind of questionable. I think Cornelius in the 6th round is actually a decent pick. And then 7th rounders were throw darts at dartboard and see what sticks. Yeah, I mean, I'll say this. I'm kind of between a B and a B plus because I really, really like the first 3 picks. And I think Cornelius is a sneaky good pick in the 6th round. But everything else was kind of questionable. I realize they do fill most of their needs outside of wide receiver, which I don't even think they technically need now that they actually traded for Pickens.
Yeah, now that they traded for Pickens, they do not.
So ultimately, I think they filled most of their needs, which is why I'm kind of between a B plus and a B. But ultimately a B because I really don't like their 5th round picks. I think they could have gotten better value there. If they wanted those players, I think they could have easily gotten those in the 6th or 7th round, to be completely blunt with you.
So for me, I gave him an A minus. We're not far off. I think this was a much better draft than I have come to expect from Jerry and company.
Yeah.
Tyler Booker, great fit. I do think you could have traded back a bit and still got him, but you know what? I'm not going to be mad at you for getting him where you did. You know what? Good call. You got an. I think Jaden Blue is a decent. He's not stellar. I don't think he's going to knock the doors off of anybody. But you could have done worse. And at round 5, I'm not mad at it. But you absolutely stole the draft with Siobhan Revel in round 3. I had him rated as my number 2 overall cornerback. Yeah, I think that's a steal of a pick for you at round 3. I kind of like Jay Toya in round 7. Sneaky pick. We'll have to see if he develops or not. But yeah, overall, the rest of it, I'm just kind of like, okay, you guys kind of fell asleep there. That's why you're getting an A minus. You can't do better than that. You also did miss on a wide receiver, but now you've traded for one, so that makes it kind of
irrelevant almost.
Irrelevant
Yeah.
almost. So yeah, A minus. So that's kind of where we're not too far off on that. Moving along to the Mile High city of Denver and their Broncos. They start with Jade Barron, a cornerback from Texas, in round 1. R.J. Harvey, a running back from UCF, in round 2. Pat Bryant, a wide receiver from Illinois, in round 3. Syvon Jones, edge from LSU, in round 3. Q Robinson, edge from Alabama, in round 4. Jeremy Crenshaw, a punter from Florida, in round 6. And Caleb Lohner, tight end, Utah, round 7. This gives me a C+. Look, you filled most of your needs, but with all the wrong players. In
the wrong spots.
Yeah, you picked bad prospects for your holes. You get a C for realizing where they were. And the plus is for Syvon Jones, who I think is going to be really good. Outside that, R.J. Harvey is fine, but not great.
Not a fucking second rounder. Jesus
He's not a
Christ.
second rounder at all. That's a third or a fourth
That was
rounder right
awful.
there. That was awful. Jade Barron totally blew the load on that one.
Yeah.
Pat Bryant, not a round 3. Exactly. You picked everything in the wrong places. You filled your holes with the wrong players.
Yeah. I'm at a C-, man. I like the Jade Barron pick. I like the Syvon Jones pick. I don't even hate the Q Robinson pick in the 4th round. Everything else I actually actively dislike.
I don't. I don't blame you for that. You, I know, coming in, were not a Jade Barron fan. You didn't even think he was a first rounder.
I didn't. No.
And so I get it, injuries, everything else, but I think you picked ahead of Buffalo. So I think if you had picked Maxwell Harrison there, I would not be this mean on you.
No, actually, I probably would have given you a C+ for that.
Yeah, I might have even gone up to a B-. Might. But yeah, no, you blew it. You blew it. Yeah, you recognized your holes, so you're going to C just for that.
Yeah. Like I said, C-. You recognize holes, but just because you recognize there's a hole doesn't mean you can just plop anybody in there and hope that it works. It's not how that works.
All right, moving along to the Motor City Kitties of the Detroit Lions. Again, we're not far off on Denver at all.
No.
Let's move along. Detroit, what did you do? In round 1, you picked Tyleik Williams, DT, Ohio State. In round 2, Tate Ratledge, offensive guard, Georgia. In round 3, Isaac Tisla, wide receiver, Arkansas. Round 5, Miles Frazier, offensive guard, LSU. Round 6, Ahmad Hassanin, edge, Boise State. Round 7, Dan Jackson, safety, Georgia. And round 7 again, Dominic Lovett, wide receiver, Georgia. Chris, what are your thoughts on what Detroit did?
Well, I know that you and I are, again, already going to disagree here. I know you have them significantly lower than I do. I have them teetering between a B- and a C+. They filled most of their holes outside of center, which is good. But as we already addressed, just because you fill the holes doesn't necessarily mean they were good holes to fill, or that you filled them with the correct people. I will say, I really like the Tyleik Williams pick here. I think Tate Ratledge at the end of the 2nd round is a solid value for your guard position. I don't think Isaac Tisla and the 3rd round was the right choice for a wide receiver there. I think that's actually kind of a bad pick. I think Miles Frazier is actually a sneaky good pick in the 5th round. And their 6th and 7th round picks were, as I've already discussed before in the past with other teams, throw darts at the dartboard and hope these stick. So I really, basically, the way I'm looking at it is I really like half of their picks, and the other half I don't like as much. So I'm kind of teetering between a B- and C+. The only reason I'm thinking B- is because I think getting Tate Ratledge in the late 2nd round and Miles Frazier in the 5th round, I think were kind of sneaky picks that are actually going to turn out to be pretty good. So I'm thinking I'm going to lean B minus.
So for me, this is a D. Um, you grabbed what is basically a round 2 DT in round 1.
At the end of round 1, to be fair, let's be honest.
But what did they need more than a defensive tackle? They needed an edge.
They got one.
In round 6, you could have had Green right here. And that would have...
Mike Green was available.
Mike Green would have been the... Like, that would have definitely pumped this up for me. Again, this is a case of, like, I like Tate Ratledge, and I pretty much look at everything else and go, Frazier's all right.
Oh, come on. Frazier's pretty decent for a 5th round pick.
Frazier's pretty good for a 5th rounder. I'm not going to lie. Okay? He could have gone in 3 or 4. Easily.
Yeah.
But everything beyond your 2 offensive guards doesn't move the needle for me.
To be fair, they did need offensive guards pretty bad.
Yes. You got 2 good offensive guards, and I basically dislike just about everything else.
I think Williams is still a good pickup. I understand what you're saying, that maybe it's a slight reach, but I still think it's a good pick.
My reason why I'm disliking it is because, not because I think he's a bad player, I think you had better needs than the interior of your D-line. I think you definitely need another edge to help out Hutchinson.
Yeah, I can understand that. I was hearing people say the opposite, though, where they said, well, because you have Hutchinson, you might not need edges badly, and that you need that interior D. It just depends on how you valued it. They clearly valued the interior D a little bit more than the other edge. I think
that's going to be wrong. I will eat my words,
though,
if it turns out to be good.
We'll find out, yeah. We'll find out.
All right, moving along to our least liked team, the Green Bay Packers. So, Matthew Golden, wide receiver, Texas, round 1. Anthony Belton, offensive tackle, NC State, round 2. Savion Williams, wide receiver, TCU, round 3. Baron Sorrell, edge, Texas, round 4. Colin Oliver, linebacker, Oklahoma State, round 5. Warren Brinson, defensive tackle, Georgia, round 6. Micah Robinson, cornerback, Tulane, round 7. John Williams, offensive tackle, Cincinnati, round 7. Chris, your thoughts?
This one was a tough one for me to grade for multiple reasons. Because, well, you did fill all your needs, technically, just like we talked about with Denver. But did you pick the right players at the right spots in the right time? I'm going to say no. It's only, I'm going to be blunt. This is only saved by 3 picks from being a D. This is actually a C minus for me. Only because of 3 picks. I like Anthony Belton in the 2nd round. I think Savon Williams is a decent wide receiver in the 3rd. I think Baron Sorrell as an edge in the 4th is actually a pretty good pick as well. Everything else I actively dislike. I think Matthew Golden in the 1st is idiotic. I will not be on that train. I do not understand everyone hyping that up, saying that it is a good pick, that this is the fantastic pick, this is the best Green Bay's draft ever. I don't fucking get it. I literally wrote down next to my grade, I still don't get it. I don't get it. I don't give a shit how fast he fucking is. If he can't catch the fucking football, and if he's going to get constantly jammed at the line, I don't get it. I'm sorry, I just don't get it.
He's not a number 1 receiver either to me.
No, he's not.
He's a number 2
I don't get it.
Slot.
I just don't get it.
So that's why I gave them a D. Again, another North team that I am super hard on that looks like they have no fucking clue what they're doing in the draft. Golden is a fine receiver for round 2 or 3. In fact, it looks like for most of the draft, you drafted all of your players 1 round sooner than they should have been.
Well, that's where I was going to say, I think actually, that's where I said the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round I actually think are okay picks at their spots.
Okay.
Because Anthony Belton, I think, is an okay 2nd rounder. I think Williams being a 3rd rounder makes sense, and even Sorrell being a 4th rounder makes sense.
Again, I still feel like even those were small reaches. Not horrible, but small. Just me.
I mean, they were in the ends of each one of those rounds though, so I can get it.
Yeah, but that's why you get a D. I think you just had a bad draft. Everybody is telling you had a great draft. I think they're blowing smoke up your butt because you're Green Bay.
I will
I don't
never
get it.
understand that, Golden.
Don't get it
I
at
don't get
all.
it.
Moving along, Houston. Jaden Higgins, wide receiver, Iowa, round 2. You did not have a round 1 pick. Ariante Ursery, offensive tackle, Minnesota, round 2. Jalen Noel, wide receiver, Iowa State, round 3. Jalen Smith, cornerback, USC, round 3. Woody Marks, running back, USC, round 4. Jalen Reed, safety, Penn State, round 6. Graham Mertz, quarterback, Florida, round 6. Keontae Hamilton, DT Rutgers, round 7. And Luke Lachey, tight end, Iowa, round 7. I give Houston a B. Good draft. Not a stellar draft. You really did need an interior lineman, but you failed to get one. I mean, you got a pretty good O-tackle, an okay but not stellar wide receiver, and some other good pieces, but I feel like you could have done better. Also, what are you trying to do? Collect all the draft picks with J in their name? Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel, Jalen Smith, Jalen Reed. You definitely had a theme.
We like J's.
Apparently. Chris, your thoughts?
I'm not far off. I gave him a B minus. I don't mind the Jaden Higgins pick. I think Ariante Ursay is a good pick. I think Jalen Noel is a decent pick. I think Jalen Smith is okay. And then everything after that, except for maybe Jalen Reed, I kind of am like, I guess they're players. It's fine. And that's what I would say about this draft. It's fine. It's fine. Nothing else much to say about it.
Alrighty. That's pretty much how I kind of feel about it, too. Moving right along to the Colts of Indianapolis. They start with Tyler Warren, tight end, Penn State, round 1. JT Tuimoloau, edge, Ohio State, round 2. Justin Wally, cornerback, Minnesota, round 3. Jalen Travis, OT, Iowa State, round 4. DJ Giddens, running back, Kansas State, round 5. Riley Leonard, quarterback, Notre Dame, round 6. Tim Smith, DT, Alabama, round 6. And Hunter Wohler, safety, Wisconsin, round 7. Chris, your thoughts on the Colts?
B minus. Started strong, fell apart fast. Tyler Warren, fantastic pick. We all know it. I think JT, I'm not going to pronounce your last name, edge from Ohio State, I think is a good second round pick. I think Justin Wally in the 3rd is a reach. I think Jalen Travis in the 4th is a reach. I think DJ Giddens as a running back in the 5th is an okay pick. And then everything else was... So I think you start off really strong and then just kind of decided not to play draft game anymore. So B minus.
I gave him a B plus because I like Tyler Warren. I really think JT from Ohio State is going to be the missing piece that they've been looking for on defense. I think he's way better than people think he is.
I think he's good for sure.
I agree with you on Wally. I agree with you on Travis. I also agree with you on Giddens. I think that's going to be an interesting pick.
Yeah, that's
but I have no idea what you're going to do with him.
I don't know what you're going to get out of it.
I don't hate Riley Leonard as a round 6, but that's again, round 6 and 7 are darts at the dartboard.
Yeah.
I am going to laugh if he ends up being your starter though because of everything
There's
else.
No way.
There's no way, but there's a part of me, there's a sadistic, psychotic part of me that would laugh at that.
Go away, bird.
So I gave him a B plus because their first couple of picks in Giddens, good enough.
Pretty much.
Good enough. But again, I agree with you. Like, you got to round 3 and you're just like, whatever. Throw darts at names. Or you pick people with great names. Wally.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. moving down the road to Jacksonville.
This is a fun one for so many reasons.
It is. So you start with Travis. You move up. You grab Travis Hunter, wide receiver, cornerback, Colorado. Caleb Ransaw, cornerback, Tulane, round 3. Wyatt Millum, offensive guard, West Virginia, round 3. Bashal Tootin, running back, Virginia Tech, round 4. Jack Kaiser, linebacker, Notre Dame, round 4. Jalen MacLeod, linebacker, Auburn, round 6. Rayuan Lane III, safety, Navy, round 6. Jonah Monheim, center, USC, round 7. LaQuint Allen, running back, Syracuse, round 7. To me, this is I teetered between like an A- or a B+. And I gave you a B+. I'm erring on the side of caution here. You took a huge swing. Better hope that it is not a huge miss. Also, this means there's no more excuses for Lawrence.
True.
There are no more excuses. Absolutely love Tootin. He'll probably be a great backup at running back for you. LaQuint Allen is an absolute steal in the 7th. I think he's also going to be a really, really good piece, depending on how you want to use him. Love me some Wyatt Millum. At round 3, that's an absolute awesome place to get him. Don't know enough about Ransaw to say whether or not that was a good or a bad pick.
It was a bad pick.
Okay. Because also, I think Revel Jr. was still there when you picked him.
He was.
And I think you could have gotten him there instead.
Yeah.
I don't hate Kaiser, but I think you picked him early. I think you picked him way early. Other than that, like, I think my other big one that I think you did well on, and you're gonna get laughed at, I think Monheim at center in round 7 is kind of a steal to me. He's better than I think people think he is.
That's a choice to say. That's a choice.
But LaQuint Allen, absolute steal to me. Bashal Tootin, not really a steal. I think you picked him right where he should have been. Round 4. I'm okay with that. Millum, round 3. Again, I had him as a 2 or a 3, so not horrible. I think that'll I think that'll work out for you too. Everything else, I'm kind of like, so you got your first pick, and then you took a round off, and then in round 3 you went, ha, we're stupid. Okay, now we're competent again. We're good again. And then the rest of it, you're kind of like, until the very end of round 7, where you went, we're going to make a smart pick again. What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah. This one was a hard one for me to grade on so many levels. Because after the first pick, I actively dislike most of the picks after that. Like, not necessarily the players, but like where you picked at. So I gave him an A- just because Travis Hunter. That's pretty much it. It feels weird to say that, but I legitimately think that talent alone will almost turn around that franchise entirely.
I'm gonna be honest. I really
Lawrence.
like Tootin and Allen.
I don't dislike Tootin or Millum or even Allen. I just think that where they got picked at feels a little high for me, but that's just a personal take. I think Ransaw was a horrible pick in the third round. I think Jack Kaiser in the 4th is a bit of a reach. I think Jalen MacLeod and Lane the 3rd were what the fuck picks. And they barely touched most of their needs outside of corner and wide receiver. So
yeah,
that's where I'm at with that.
Interesting thing to do.
But I basically gave him an A- because most of that is you got Travis Hunter. Congratulations, you won the lottery.
All right. So, Kansas City.
God damn it, Kansas City.
God damn it, Kansas City.
They can't keep getting away with this!
Josh Simmons, offensive tackle, Ohio State, round 1. Omar Norman Lott, defensive tackle, Tennessee, round 2. Ashton Shalott, edge, Louisville, round 3. Noel Williams, cornerback, Cal, round 3. Jalen Royals, wide receiver, Utah State, round 4. Jeffrey Bassa, linebacker, Oregon, round 5, and Brashard Smith, running back, SMU, round 7. Chris, your thoughts?
It's an A plus. I hate it. I hate it so much. They filled every need they had with fantastic value. Josh Simmons at the very end, fantastic pick as an offensive tackle. Getting Omar out of Tennessee as the late second rounder, fantastic pick. Ashton Gillette Edge early in the third round, maybe a slight reach, but still a fantastic player. Getting Noel Williams out of California in the third round still. Good corner. Jalen Royals out of Utah, a fantastic underrated wide receiver in the
Yes,
fourth round.
Utah State, so underrated.
Jeffrey Basai in the fifth round is of decent value, actually, for the pick. And Brashard Smith, running back. Listen, as a seventh round pick, that's a fun pick. He might not be amazing, but, like, he's got potential as a seventh rounder. What the fuck? Why do they let him keep getting away with this?
I agree with you. This is an A plus. Filled all your needs. Found a late round receiver again who could be really good. Let's hope that this one doesn't go and do off-field stupid things.
True.
I mean, Norman Lott is probably going to be a fantastic DT for you and is probably the heir apparent to Chris Jones. You secured your O-line. You had a super solid draft. And I think you got value at every pick. They cannot keep getting away with this. Why do people keep letting the Chiefs do this?
I don't know, man. That first round pick was even after a trade. They still got Josh Simmons. The fuck?
All right. The LA Chargers. Omarion Hampton, running back, North Carolina, round 1. Trey Harris, wide receiver, Ole Miss, round 2. Jamari Caldwell, DT, Oregon, round 3. Kyle Kennard, edge, South Carolina, round 4. Keandre Lambert-Smith, wide receiver, Auburn, round 5. Oronde Gadsden II, tight end, Syracuse, round 5. Branson Taylor, tight end, Pitt, round 6. RJ Mickens, safety, Clemson, round 6. And Triquezy Bridges, safety, Florida, round 7. I like that first name.
Yeah, Triquezy. I know.
Okay, this to me is a B minus. Really I like Hampton, I like Mickens, and I like Kennard. Those are the ones that I think you did a decent job at grabbing. Mickens in round 6 to me is kind of a steal. I think he could have gone a couple of rounds earlier. I think he's really, really good. Kennard, also really good out of South Carolina. I think you could have gotten him in 3, even.
I would have swapped Caldwell and Kennard, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, Caldwell and Kennard. Yeah. But you got lucky and you got Kennard in round 4. So, Trey Harris, I don't know. He might be good.
Dude, I'd like that pick a lot, actually.
The problem is they also didn't really have another better wide receiver option there.
They didn't, but I think he's still very good for what they got.
I dislike the Caldwell pick. I feel like they had better options there.
Yeah.
But basically, you moved up from a C to a B based on the steal of RJ Mickens. You get the minus for Caldwell.
Fair. I'm at a B plus. I really like the Omarion Hampton pick. I actually think Trey Harris is a sneaky pick that people are underrating. I think Caldwell is not a good pick at 3rd, but I like the Kyle Kennard pick. If they would have swapped those, that probably would have been better value. I'm not a big fan of Lambert-Smith. Even in the 5th round, I think that's a reach.
I do too.
I think Gadsden II out of Syracuse, even again in 5th round, feels like a bit of a reach for me. Branson Tyler. So it's a swing at a 6th rounder. We'll see if it works out. Mickens is a huge steal in the 6th round. And Triquezy is just a fun name to say. So, B+.
We're not far off on that. I think we both kind of agree with that. All right, moving along to the other team in LA, known as the Rams. They start with Terrence Ferguson, a tight end from Oregon in round 2. Josiah Stewart, edge, Michigan, round 3. Jarquez Hunter, running back Auburn, round 4. Ty Hamilton, DT Ohio State, round 5. Chris Paul Jr., no relation to the basketball player, linebacker Ole Miss, round 5. And Kanata Mumpfield, wide receiver Pitt, round 7. I love it. I love that name. However, I don't love this draft. You get a C. I do give it a plus, though.
Man, you're too nice.
I gave it a plus because you fucking fleeced the Falcons in the first round. Other than that,
yeah, what they do with it?
It doesn't matter. They got a round 1 pick for next year, so now they have 2 round 1s next year. That's why you get a plus. Everything else, I like Hunter and I like Stewart, and that's about it. Everything else, like, you didn't put a succession plan in place for Stafford. You didn't improve your secondary. You drafted another tight end that I think you way overreached on. I do not like him there at round 2. I think if you'd put Harold Fan in there, I think I'd be in a better place. Or the, what's his name? The kid from LSU that the Jets grabbed.
Yeah, we'll get to it.
I do like Josiah Stewart and I do like Jarquez Hunter, and that's about it. Everything else I think is just trash. But you get a C+ for fleecing the Falcons, and that's really about it.
Yeah, no, this is a D+, dog. D+. I hate this pick. I hate every pick here. I think Terrence Ferguson's a huge reach in the second round. Josiah Stewart is okay for a third rounder. I'm sorry, I don't like Hunter. I don't like him here. Maybe as a 5th or 6th round pick, maybe, but as a 4th rounder, I don't like it. I think Ty Hamilton is garbage. I don't mean him as a person is garbage, but I just think it's a garbage pick.
It's a garbage pick.
I think Chris Paul Jr. is actually a sneaky good pick in the 5th round, and Mumfield was a dartboard throw. Literally, what I wrote down is I don't get what happened.
You f***ed up is what happened.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. This is crazy. Like you said, I don't mind the trade down and getting that extra first rounder, but it feels like they did that because they didn't know what to do with their draft. So, that's where I'm at with that.
Moving to Sin City, Las Vegas, Nevada. Started with Ashton Jeanty, running back Boise State in round 1. Then they grabbed Jack Beck, wide receiver TCU round 2. Darian Porter, cornerback Iowa State round 3. Caleb Rogers, offensive tackle Texas Tech round 3. Charles Grant, offensive tackle from William and Mary, round 3. Dante Thornton Jr., wide receiver Tennessee, round 4. Tonka Hemingway, defensive tackle South Carolina, round 4.
Tonka trunk, boop boop.
JJ Pegues, DT Ole Miss, round 6. Tommy Mellott, wide receiver Montana State, round 6. Cam Mellor, quarterback North Dakota State, round 6. And Cody Lindbergh, linebacker Minnesota, round 7. Chris, your thoughts?
A+. I love this fucking draft. I think Ashton Jeanty, fantastic pick. Obviously, you want a little bit better line, which is one of the only knock you could probably give them is the fact that they didn't pick up an offensive guard or an offensive tackle to help out a little bit better. But regardless, I love the Ashton Jeanty pick. I think Jack Beck is an underrated wide receiver. I love that pick. I think getting Darian Porter in the 3rd round is a fucking steal. I think Caleb Rogers is okay for the 3rd round, but I really like Charles Grant in the 3rd round. Deontay Thornton was a bit of a reach in the 4th round, but I really like Tonka Hemingway in the 4th round. I do. I really like Tonka. I think Tonka is underrated. Really underrated. I really like him. I like JJ is pretty good as a 6th round pick. I really do like that one a lot too. Tommy Mellott and Cam Miller and Cody were, the 6th, 7th round. Throw darts at board, see what happens. I honestly really, really like this draft a lot. The only guys I really don't like at their picks was Caleb Rogers, Deontay Thornton, and that's pretty much it. I mean, Tonka, you could argue, you could swap Tonka and JJ, and that'd probably be better value at those spots. But ultimately, I think they're good picks.
I'm
I would have liked to see an offensive guard somewhere here, but I mean, I can't fault what they did. I really like what they did.
So for me, it's an A, not an A plus, and that's primarily because I don't like Tonka Hemingway, and I think Beck is good, but I think they reached on him. Um,
I don't think so at all.
I
I
feel
think
like
he's
they did.
hugely
I
underrated.
just I
He's
feel like they
underrated, I
did,
think.
especially where they drafted him. I feel like you had better options there. That's just me.
Again, I think he's just underrated. I think
Um,
you're underrating him, bud.
Now,
Personal take.
as much as we say about them needing a guard, I think what happens, looking at Caleb Rogers, I would bet he kicks inside to guard. And
That's
Grant
possible, yeah.
Grant is a project, but God, does he have a high ceiling? Holy
Oh, yeah.
crap, that dude could be great. I really love Porter. Absolute steal in round 3. Um, Big fan of where's the other one here? I like Pegues. I think that was really, really, really good
I
for
keep wanting
me.
to call him Pegasus.
Yeah. Cam Miller in round 6. Okay, let's see what you got. What's the problem there? You know,
Yeah.
maybe we get a quarterback out of it. I don't think so, but you never know.
Probably not, but you never know. Yeah.
Stupider things have happened. He is NDSU, so we'll see if that makes anything out of it. But yeah, I think they did great things. You filled your needs. I think you got good value at pretty much all your picks, except a couple. Um, yeah, and you took a couple of shots on some stuff in the late rounds that could end up working out for you. Absolutely love Pegways though. That dude is so versatile. Does so many
Yeah.
things. But yeah, absolute A. Not an A plus, but you got close. You got really close. Um, Moving on to the Dolphins of Miami. They grabbed Kenneth Grant, the defensive tackle of Michigan, in round 1. Jonah Savaina. I'm not going to bother to try to say the rest of that, but you're going to fit right in Miami where people can say that kind of thing. Offensive
True.
guard, Arizona, round 2. Jordan Phillips, defensive tackle, Maryland, round 5. Jason Marshall Jr., cornerback, Florida, round 5. Dante Trader Jr., safety, Maryland, round 5. Ollie Gordon II, running back, Oklahoma State, round 6. Quinn Ewers, quarterback, Texas, round 7. Zeke Biggers, defensive tackle, Georgia Tech, round 7. So for me, considering your lack of picks, because you didn't get a whole lot, especially early rounds, you had a lot of 5s. I think you did a decent job. I'm going to give you a B. I might be higher than you on that. I really do think Kenneth Grant, because I was higher on Grant than you were, but I like Kenneth Grant. I think that's going to work out great. Savanea was a reach, but there had been a run on O lineman right before they grabbed him, so you did what you could there. Marshall Jr. is an okay cornerback. Not great. Phillips is a bit of a reach at round 5. And Quinn Ewers in round 7. I actually don't mind at all. That's a shot in the dark, and we'll see what he can do if Tua gets hurt again. I mean, you could have done a lot worse. So you get a B for being solid and grabbing a couple of things early on that I think could work out for you.
I don't like most of this picks. I'm at a C. I like the Kenneth Grant pick. While I wasn't as high on him as you were, he was still easily a first rounder in my book, so I have no problem with that. I think Jonah is a decent guard in the 2nd round. I think Phillips was a really big reach in the 5th round. I think Jason Marshall corner is fine, question mark. I don't like Dante Trader in the 5th round. I don't like Ollie Gordon even in the 6th round. I think Quinn Ewers might be a slight steal in the 7th. Like, I could have seen him going in the 5th or 6th, actually. I think he's a little bit underrated, so I don't mind that pick. And then Zeke is, it's a dark dart throw. So See, to me, you got two good players, one maybe steal, and the rest are questionable at best for me. Um, Basically, to me, it's a 50-50. I like some of them, and then I dislike a lot of them. So, see, um, I think they could have done better.
I get it. All right, moving along, we get to another team we're going to disagree very highly with. And this would be
Probably not as much as you think, but we'll see.
the Vikings of Minnesota. They start with Donovan Jackson, offensive guard, Ohio State, round 1. They grab Ty Felton, a wide receiver in Maryland, in round 3. They grab Tyrion Ingram Dawkins, the edge from Georgia, in round 5. Kobe King, linebacker, Penn State, round 6. And Gavin Bartholomew, tight end, Pitt, round 6. Chris, your thoughts?
So I'm going to save my grade for the end, and I'll just go over the players first, because I know we're going to disagree on the grade, which is fine. I actually don't mind Donovan Jackson as an offensive guard. I get what they were doing. They want to protect JJ in the pocket. I think Donovan Jackson is one of the better guards that were still available at the end of the first round. I think it's a good pick. I think Ty Felton in the third round is actually a solid pickup. I do like him as a third round pick. I think he'll slot in as being a wide receiver 3 or 4 pretty easily, in my opinion. Especially if we're worried about not being able to pay Addison when his contract comes up. Maybe Ty Felton can take over for that second pick. I get it. I think Tyrion Ingram as an edge from Georgia is not a bad 5th round pick. I think Kobe King in the 6th round is fine. It's a project. We'll see if it works out. And then Gavin Bartholomew is just a 6th round tight end pick. Throw it out there, see what happens. I actually like the value for players they got, but I have concerns because they didn't address the needs that I think they really needed to address. And so I was kind of in this quandary of you got good value for picks, but you didn't pick the players that you needed really badly outside of the one guard. So I gave them a C. I think you got good value, but I don't think you picked the needs what you needed. And it bothered me. I do like the players. I just think you needed to focus more on your secondary defense than you did. You didn't get a corner. You didn't get a safety. I realize we got some guys in the from undrafted in hopes that they work out. But like, for example, I don't mind Ty Felton, but Siobhan Revel was available at that spot. Why the fuck did we not go there? There was a couple of the safeties that were available where Tyrion Dawkins was. Why didn't we go there? I just don't understand some of the choices that were made. This isn't a knock against the players. I think the players are fine picks, just not for what we needed really badly. So that's why I'm kind of at a C. I'm floating C minus even a little bit there. I'm a little confounded because I feel like they could have done significantly better, but I'm not mad at the value for player we got either. So I'm kind of in that weird quandary area. You know what I'm saying?
So I'm also going to save my grade for the end. And I am going to pick this apart real quick. So I want to lead with I don't necessarily hate any of the players we picked. And I agree with you. I think all of them were basically good value. The problem is you didn't need a linebacker. You got plenty of those. You didn't need an edge. You got plenty of those. And you didn't need a tight end. You're probably pretty good there. But yet you wasted picks on all of them. I get why you grabbed the wide receiver you did. But, seeing that Nick Nash fell, why wouldn't you have used one of the round 6 picks on like a Nick Nash? That would have been way better in my opinion. I'd have been way happier with that. Especially if you addressed your secondary need. This is what kills me. You needed either a safety or a corner, and you got neither of them. For years, I've wanted you to grab a guard, and you've always ignored me until the year when I think that you didn't need to right away. You could have had a decent guard at the end of round 3 where you grabbed Ty Felton. Jackson Slater was there, and I think that would have worked out fine for you. Dude, I think, is a mauler. I don't hate Donovan Jackson. If you're going to pick a guard in round 1, I was okay with that. Don't like it necessarily because I think he's a round 2. But if you had to have a guard in round 1 and that's what you were set on, okay. I'm not totally pissed. But everything else, like, I get why you might want a Ty Felton if you're worried about Addison. But again, we've discussed there were better options that you could have picked. That's a luxury pick. Revel was there. If you hadn't picked, you got handed a platter of Malachi Starks, Nick Amon-Wari, Johnson from Michigan, and Siobhan Revel Jr. You could have had your pick of any of the top tier secondary players in the draft, and you bypassed all of them for Donovan Jackson. That is why I am really down on you this year. The only reason I'm not infinity on you is because you did trade to get a backup quarterback in Sam Howell, and I think that'll be okay. I'm not mad at that. But I hate this draft. I hate it. I hate it. F-, you fail. You fail. You addressed one need and didn't address a single other need that you really had. You fail.
Well, technically 2 needs, but yeah.
Technically the wide receiver, yes, but you fail. You fail. I still think you're going to have a good season. I think Donovan Jackson will probably factor into that. But I don't know that Ty Felton does. I'm pretty sure Ingram Dawkins doesn't. I'm sure Kobe King won't, and I'm sure Bartholomew won't. You failed. You failed on this. You needed to get secondary players, and you didn't get any. So yeah, no, this is a failure for you, 100%. And if we don't do well this season, it's because our secondary fucking falls apart. So yeah, this was terrible in my opinion.
I wasn't going to go quite that far, but it definitely could have been better.
That's why I gave them an F-. I'm willing to be super harsh. They're our team to me. I'm a Vikings fan.
No, I obviously am too.
I am going to be super harsh on us.
I think, but as proven based upon how you ranked us last year, pre-season, and how it ultimately went where I ranked them, I tend to be closer to being correct because I'm kind of level-headed in that way.
Well, I still said I think they're. I will tell everybody now. I have already looked at their schedule, and while we're not probably going to do
this
it today,
year, you are actually
we're actually
this year you and I are more on the same spot.
Yeah. I'm pretty close. I think to what I think they could be this year. It doesn't mean I think their draft this year was worth hot spit in a kettle.
Like I said, I think it was fine, but it could have been significantly better.
Yep. All right, moving along to the New England Patriots. New England. They grabbed Will Campbell, offensive tackle, LSU, round 1. Travion Henderson, running back, Ohio State, round 2. Kyle Williams, wide receiver, Washington State, round 3. Jared Wilson, center, Georgia, round 3. Craig Woodson, safety, Cal, round 4. Joshua Farmer, defensive tackle, Florida State, round 4. Braden Swinson, edge, LSU, round 5. Andres Borregales, place kicker, Miami, round 6. Marcus Bryant, offensive tackle, Missouri, round 7. Julian Ashby, long snapper, Vanderbilt, round 7. And Kobe Minor, cornerback, Memphis, round 7. I'm going to give them an A. I really like this draft for them. Love me some Will Campbell. Absolutely protect Drake May. Making it better where it counts. Travion Henderson is a great change of pace back for them because the guy, Stevenson, is more of a banger, like more of a run you over type of back. And Henderson's the home run hitter. He's the guy that's going to like take the ball and just disappear with it, using that speed. Don't mind Kyle Williams, although I think you may have reached a little on that. Jared Wilson, center out of Georgia, that's a great pick. Also adds to that offensive line. Um, overall, I think these guys did a very good job um, getting exactly who they should have um, to make things better around Drake May. So to me, this is an A. What say you, good sir?
Um, I say B plus. There are just some small things that I wasn't a fan of. I do really like Will Campbell. I like Travion Henderson. Um, I think Kyle Williams is okay, but maybe a slight reach, like we've already talked about. I think Jared Wilson's a fantastic pick. I'm not a fan of the Craig Woodson pick at all. I think that's a huge reach in my opinion. Um, Joshua Farmer is pretty decent for a fourth round pick. Braden Swinson is a pretty decent pick for a fifth. But then when they got to the sixth and seventh rounds, I didn't really. Again, I know that they're throwing darts at a board at that point, but I wasn't a fan of the people that they did pick for those picks. So I'm at a B plus. I think they did really well. I think they could have done a little bit better in, not picking Craig Woodson, maybe a slightly different player. I think, you know, I think the sixth and seventh rounds could have been a little bit better. But I'm at a B plus. I think they did really well. They're protecting, Drake May, which is good. They're giving him some weapons to work with. I think overall, good draft.
I can see it. Yeah, I like it a little more than you. But yeah, I think they did a good job. I think they got some good stuff for Drake May. I think this is going to be a fun season to watch for them.
Yeah.
Moving along to the other end team, New Orleans, or the other new team, New Orleans, New England, New Orleans. We're going to start with round one, where they got Kelvin Banks Jr., the offensive tackle from Texas. Then they grabbed Tyler Shug, quarterback, Louisville, in round two. They got Vernon Boughton, defensive tackle from Texas, in round three. They got Jonas Sanker, a safety from Virginia, in round three. They got Danny Stutzman, a linebacker from Oklahoma, in round four. Quincy Riley, cornerback from Louisville, in round four. Devin Neal, the running back from Kansas, in round six. Moliki Matavo, tight end, UCLA, round seven. And Fadil Diggs, edge, Syracuse, in round seven. Your thoughts, good sir?
I'm at a solid B. I really do like Kelvin Banks here. I think he's a great pickup to protect whatever quarterback you put into that system. I think Tyler Shug is a pretty competent veteran QB at this point. I realize he's technically a rookie, but he's been around for a long enough period of time that I think he's got a good head on his shoulders. And I think he'll be a good quarterback. Vernon, I think, is a little bit of a reach in the third round. I'm not a big fan of that. But I think Jonas Sanker as a safety in the third is pretty decent. Danny Stutzman is a little bit of a reach in the fourth, but not real bad. I do like Quincy Riley in the fourth. I do really, really like Devin Neal in the sixth. I think that's a steal, in my opinion. I think he should have been actually a fourth or fifth round pick, in my opinion. And, the seventh round picks are actually pretty decent. I think Matavo is a project, but I think he's got project tight end that could be good for him. And I even think Diggs could be a pretty decent edge with a little bit more work. So overall, I'm pretty okay with this team. I think a B is a fair pick for this draft.
I agree with you. I also gave it a B. Like I said, I really like. You missed getting an interior O lineman because you could use a guard, and you didn't really get a wide receiver either, which is another thing you could have used. But Calvin Banks Jr., great offensive tackle. I think that helps a lot. A lot of people are blasting the Shug pick, and I disagree with them.
I don't get it. I think he's good.
He's older. I think
Yeah.
he'll have a better control of the locker room and a better understanding of it, even though he's technically a rookie. Also, I feel like Kellen Moore knows what kind of quarterback he's going to want to work with and will work in the system that he wants. So I think that works. I don't hate the Boughton pick. I do agree it was a bit of a reach, but you did need another DT because Breesy has not panned out at all.
No. Yeah.
Which is sad. I love Devin Neal at round 6. Again, steal. Absolute steal. in round 6. Yes, you've got a good running back now, but still, Devin Neal, I think, going to be a good backup to him for the moment. And if he gets hurt or something else goes on, I think you've got a very competent player that can step right in there. Also,
Yeah.
I agree with you about Diggs and Matavo. They're both projects, but I think both of them could turn out to be really good players.
Hmm.
So I'm not going to disagree with you. It's a solid B for me. For as much turmoil as they've had recently, I think the Saints did a really good job in this draft.
For sure.
Um, Going to another new place, the New York Giants. They started with Abdul Carter, the edge out of Penn State, in round 1. They then traded back into round 1 to grab Jackson Dart, the QB from Ole Miss. Then they grabbed Darius Alexander, a DT out of Toledo, in round 3. Cam Scadaboo, the running back from Arizona State, in round 4. Marcus Mbow, offensive guard Purdue, in round 5. Thomas Fidone, the second, tight end Nebraska, round 7. And Corey Black, cornerback, Oklahoma State, round 7. This is an A. This is easy A for me. You didn't overthink this, and you got the right
No.
pieces. Abdul Carter is an absolute game changer at edge for you guys. Jackson Dart, I don't think he's going to start this year, but that's your future at quarterback.
I think he'll start.
You might end up starting him at the end of the season.
He'll end up. I think he'll end up starting a game or two at some point. Yeah.
Yeah. By the
But he
end
won't
of the
be the
season,
starter.
Yeah, you won't. He won't start the season as the starter, but I think by the end of the season, you're going to see what you've got in him because you're going to be out of contention. You do have Russell Wilson, and I forget the other
Jameis
guy.
Winston.
Yeah, you got famous Jameis and you got Russell Wilson. I think those two will pass the starting job back and forth for most of the season. But then I think by the end of the season, Jackson does get into a couple of games just to see how he looks. I think you'll be surprised with him. I think he'll be really good. Absolutely love the steal of Scadaboo in the 4th round. I think that's going to be a bell cow back for you guys. You have to push him. I think you're going to really, really love him. Like, if I'm looking at this and you hit on even half of what you have, this is still an A pick. Thomas Fidone the second in round 7, I don't hate. And I don't even hate Darius Alexander from Toledo in round 3. Little bit of a reach, but not too bad at all. Yeah, I think you guys did a good job. This is an A. Chris, your thoughts?
I'm giving it an A plus. I love the Abdul Carter pick. I really like the Jackson Dart pick. It might not have had to push up into the 1st round to get him, but I can understand the concerns that maybe somebody else will pick him at the very end.
Or somebody else would move up and get him.
Move up and get him? Yeah, exactly. I actually think Darius Alexander's a sneaky good pick for the 3rd round, to be honest with you. I kind of like it. Cam Scadaboo, steal in the 4th, no question. Marcus Membo in the 5th is almost an insult to him. I think he was an easy 3rd rounder in my pick. I really like that pick. Thomas Fidone, I think, is fine for a 7th round project. And even Corey Black, I think, is fine for a 7th round project. I think they did really, really well. I even wrote down as my note as to how the fuck did you get away with these players? I can't believe they let you do this. Like you said, even if they hit on only half of these, they're gonna be really good halves if you get them. Especially like Abdul Carter, Cam Scadaboo, Jackson Dart.
Yes.
Even if Marcus Membo and Darius Alexander are only okay, I think you're still ending up really, really well.
Yes, I think this was a really good draft for them. I think they're set up very good for the future.
Yep.
All right. Moving along to the other team in New York, the Jets, Jets. Armand Membo, offensive tackle, Missouri, round 1. Mason Taylor, tight end, LSU, round 2. Azariah Thomas, cornerback, Florida State, round 3. Arian Smith, wide receiver, Georgia, round 4. Malachi Moore, safety, Alabama, round 4. Francisco Mauigoa, linebacker, Miami, round 5. Tyler Barron, edge, Miami, round 5. Chris, your thoughts?
I'm actually sitting at a B. I think this is a decent draft. I think it could have been a little bit better. I do like Armand Membo as your offensive tackle. I think that's a great pick to help try to protect Fields in the pocket. I think Mason Taylor in the second round is actually a pretty decent tight end. Maybe a little bit of a reach, but I actually like him quite a bit, so I can understand why they picked him here. I think Azariah Thomas in the third is also makes sense to me. Maybe the ninth pick in the third might be a little bit of a reach, but again, we're talking somewhere in the third. I would have still been happy with him. Arian Smith, I think, is a reach in the fourth. I think that was a bad pick, to be honest. I think Malachi Moore in the fourth is also not a great pick. But I don't dislike Francisco in the fifth, and I actually really like Tyler in the fifth. I think Tyler was a sneaky decent pick for the fifth for an edge. So overall, I think they did okay. They could have been better, but I think they did okay.
So I gave them an A because they really only had one round that was bad, and that was the fourth round to me. You could have done better in the fourth round. But I mean, everything else, you shored up your O-line with a good OT that I don't think is going to have problems with Membo. Mason Taylor, tight end, absolutely love him. Son of Hall of Famer Jason Taylor. And watching his stuff, I've been like, oh, this has been good. Yeah. I'm not even mad about it.
It's not amazing, but it's good.
Yeah. He runs good tight routes. He knows how to run on a line, and he's got good hands. Azariah Thomas in round 3, I actually kind of like. I think that's a sneaky good pick in round 3. Mm-hmm. Again, don't like Arian Smith or Malachi Moore. I think you had better options there. But Maui Goa in round 5 and Barron in round 5, I think those are going to be... I think that's going to be a lot better than most people think. I like them there. All right. Moving into the Eagles from Philadelphia. Round 1, Jihad Campbell, linebacker, Alabama. Then they grab Andrew Mukaba, safety, Texas in round 2. Ty Robinson, a DT from Nebraska in round 4. Mac McWilliams, cornerback, UCF in round 5. Smail Mondon Jr., linebacker, Georgia, round 5. Drew Kendall, center, Boston College, round 5. Kyle McCord, quarterback, Syracuse, round 6. Miles Hinton, offensive tackle, Michigan, round 6. Cameron Williams, offensive tackle, Texas, round 6. And Antoine Powell Ryland, edge, Virginia Tech, round 6. This is a C. I'm not really sure what they were thinking here. You didn't really fix anything. You didn't really fill any needs. You just, reached into the bag and grabbed players. You did stuff. But you didn't grab horrible players. So I'm not going to knock you down further. I actually sneakily like Powell Ryland in the 6th. Kyle McCord in the 6th. Okay. Backup QB. I don't like Mukaba in the 2nd. I think that was maybe a bit of a reach there. But I don't mind Jihad Campbell.
It's the end of the 2nd, to be fair.
So maybe, okay.
Kind of on that edge, yeah.
But I like Jihad Campbell in the 1st. I think that was probably their best pick, to be completely honest. Everything else just feels like we're playing a claw machine and we're just going to get whatever comes out.
Pretty much.
Your thoughts?
I'm sitting at a C-, not that far off. I like Jihad Campbell. I think Andrew Mukaba, I think is fine for a late 2nd, early 3rd. I think Ty Robinson's actually not a bad 4th round pick. But then Mac McWilliams is a huge reach in the 5th. Samuel Mondron is okay at the end of the 5th. Drew Kendall at the end of the 5th is also fine, I guess. Kyle McCord in the 6th is okay, fine, maybe. Miles Hinton, I hate even the 6th round.
Yeah.
Cameron Williams, I think maybe you have a project potentially in that one.
UDFA.
Yeah. Williams might be a project in the 6th there. And I think Powell Ryland is also a decent project at the end of the 6th. I just, like you already said, they only addressed edge by the very end of the class. and defensive tackle with Ty Robinson, which I think is fine for a fourth. But they really didn't address guard. They didn't address wide receivers. They didn't address tight ends. They basically didn't touch much of their actual secondary at all. I just I don't know what they were doing.
I have
I
no
literally
idea.
even wrote down what question mark? I don't get what you did after the first three
Yeah,
picks.
I don't get it either. Um, so moving along, time to move to the other team in that state, the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think we're pretty close on this one too. Um, they start with Derek Harmon, defensive tackle, Oregon, round 1. Caleb Johnson, running back, Iowa, round 3. Jack Sawyer, edge, Ohio State, round 4. Yaya Black, DT, Iowa, round 5. Will Howard, QB, Ohio State, round 6. Carson Bruner, linebacker, Washington, round 7. Dante Kent, cornerback, Central Michigan, round 7. Chris, your thoughts?
Uh, this was a draft. I I actually like Derek Harmon in the first round. I think that's a good pick for a defensive tackle. Not that you really needed one, but it wasn't a bad pick. I think Caleb Johnson in the third round is actually a pretty decent pick for a running back. But then Jack Sawyer in the fourth is a reach. Yaya Black is what the fuck are you doing in the fifth? Will Howard is fine for a sixth round quarterback. Carson Bruner was why are you drafting him? And Dante Kent was another why are you drafting him? You barely touched any of your needs. You're getting a D plus just because I think Derek Harmon and Caleb Johnson are decent players. Everything else, like Will Howard, maybe is okay as well. I just don't understand what you were doing.
I gave them a D. I didn't even give them the benefit of a plus. My only notes are, oops,
You did things.
you did stuff.
Like
I
at least
agree
when
with
Philly
you.
was doing stuff, they were trying to pick good players most of the time.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like Derek Harmon and I like Caleb Johnson, and everything after that can be probably tossed into the sun, with the exception of maybe Will Howard, who getting
Yeah,
him in the sixth round. Okay, that's you didn't overpay
that's
for it.
fine.
That's fine.
Yeah,
It's fine. I
it's
don't
fine.
like it, but it's fine. The problem is, who's gonna catch the ball outside of DK, and who's gonna throw the
No one.
ball?
Will Howard.
Is it gonna be
No,
Will Howard or
Mason
is it
Rudolph.
gonna
Oh
be
God.
Mason Rudolph?
Yeah, I think they're still hoping to get Rodgers. I don't know why.
I don't know
I
what you
don't
guys
know
are
why.
doing. I almost feel like at this point, the head coach Tomlin is just. I think he's trying to see if he can get himself fired.
How far do I have to push it
How
to get
far
fired?
can I still be above 500 with this team? How far can I
Pretty
push
much.
that? Moving along, the Seattle Seahawks. They start with Gray Zabel, an offensive guard from NDSU in round 1. Nick Imanwari, safety, South Carolina in round 2. Elijah Arroyo, tight end, Miami, round 2. Jalen Milrow, quarterback, Alabama, round 3. Riley Mills, DT, Notre Dame, round 5. Torrey Horton, wide receiver, Colorado State, round 5. Robbie Ust, tight end, Ust, tight end, Alabama, round 5. Bryce Cabledew, offensive tackle, round 6. Damian Martinez, running back, Miami, round 7. Mason Richmond, offensive tackle, Iowa, round 7. Ricky White, the third, wide receiver, UNLV, round 7. I give this an A. I think they did a really good job. Gray Zabel, great pick. Fantastic pick. Plays everywhere on the line. Amon Wari, absolute steal in round 2. I think he should have gone in round 1. Um, will help an already deep secondary. Milrow could be your next starter at quarterback. Give him some time to develop. I don't think he's an immediate starter, but
No.
but I think he's got the athletic ability and everything else to be a starter if you give him enough time. Um, and I think Horton is going to be a lot better than people are going to give him credit for. Um, I like. I'm not sure I'm big on Arroyo in round two. I think you reached a bit on a tight end there. But I get it. You don't really have tight ends, so you did something that you thought you had to do. I think. I think where you drafted him is where I would have grabbed old boy out of Bowling Green. Um, but I get what you're doing. Milrow in round three, I think is perfect. Um, Mills, okay, little bit of a reach there in round five. Horton in round five, I really like. Um, Big fan of that. Um, round five, I like the name. I don't like where you grabbed him. Cable Do, Martinez, Richmond, and White are your sixes and sevens. You're throwing darts at a dartboard. I don't hate any of it. We'll see if any of them develop into anything worth your time and effort. Chris, your thoughts?
I'm on a B. I do really like Gray Zabel a lot. I like Nick Warrior in the second. That's fantastic. I think Elijah Arroyo is a decent tight end. Second round, mid-second round, maybe is a little bit of a reach, but I can understand why you did it. I think Jalen Milrow is a fun project quarterback, which is why I kept saying he's not a first rounder, but if someone picked him up and let him sit for a little bit, I think this is actually a good place to do it. I think Riley Mills is a massive reach in the fifth round. I don't get that one. I agree with Torrey Horton. I think he's actually an underrated wide receiver. I think this is fifth round is a pretty decent place for him to go. You already picked up a tight end, so why the fuck are you picking another one in the fifth round that isn't even worth the fifth round pick? It's not worth it. It's not worth it. He's not a fifth round pick, let alone another tight end fifth round pick.
If you grabbed him in the seventh, I wouldn't be angry.
Yeah. Bryce Cabledew is a breathable type offensive tackle, I guess. I actually kind of like Damian Martinez as a project running back. I think he's got a lot of potential. Mason Richmond is fine, I guess, and Ricky White I don't really have very high up on my board either. So I think they made some really good picks. I think they got some sneaky good picks as well. With a couple of question mark choices, especially in the fifth round there. But overall, not bad. Definitely could have been better, but they addressed some of their needs. I would have liked them to address an edge. I can understand center being hard in this draft particularly, but there was a couple edges that I feel like they like. As much as I like Elijah, I think that picking an edge in the second round there would have been a better choice, personally. And I think Elijah probably might have still been around. And even if he wasn't, the kid from Bowling Green, I don't think get drafted until the fourth round. So he's definitely was still around.
Third.
Was it third round? Okay, so they could have maybe still been able to get him. Yeah. So I think that there were other choices they could have made here, but I don't hate what they did. I think they set themselves up for a succession in case Sam Darnold doesn't work, which is why they got Jalen Milrow. Gotcha. I think Sam will work, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's good.
Even if he's only there for a couple of years, now you got Milrow.
That's what I'm saying.
When he's gone. Yeah. No, perfect.
That's what I'm saying. They already got a succession in place. Give Milrow some time to sit. I think it's good. I think B to B plus is probably where I'm at. Probably sitting closer to a B. But good, solid.
All right. When you're going to San Francisco, be sure to wear flowers in your hair. Not sure we're gonna give them many flowers for this draft, but we'll see.
Fucking not.
All right, so we start off at the beginning here with Michael Williams, edge, Georgia, round 1. Alfred Collins, defensive tackle, Texas, round 2. Nick Martin, linebacker, Oklahoma State, round 3. Upton Stout, cornerback, Western Kentucky, round 3. CJ West, DT, Indiana, round 4. Jordan Watkins, wide receiver, Ole Miss, round 4. Jordan James, running back, Oregon, round 5. Marquise Sigel, safety, Kansas State, round 5. Curtis Rourke, QB, Indiana, round 7. Connor Colby, offensive guard, Iowa, round 7. Junior Bergen, wide receiver, Montana, round 7. Chris, Your thoughts?
D minus, sir. D minus. You are the closest to my F. I don't have one, but you are the closest one there. What the fuck were you doing? Michael Williams was decent in the first round. I actually like that as an edge pick. Alfred Collins in the second round, early in the second round, is an over pick in my opinion, but I get it. You needed a defensive tackle. Nick Martin the third is an awful pick for value. Upton Stout, another bad pick in the third round. CJ West, not a good fourth round pick either. Jordan Watkins, a horrible fourth round pick. Jordan James is an okay fifth round pick. He's got some upside. I can understand that one. Marquise Single, terrible fifth round pick. Curtis Rourke, I guess seventh rounder, you're taking a chance. Connor, you're taking a chance in the seventh as well. Same with Junior. I I don't know what you guys were thinking or what you're seeing, but outside of Mike Hill and Alfred, you guys just dropped the ball so hard on value for players. And you barely even touched the needs of what you needed.
I gave them a D plus. Um, I didn't like Michael Williams here, but that's because where they drafted, they had better options. I think Mike Green or James Pierce Jr. would have been a better fit here for them. But you know what? It's an edge. He's not a bad edge. Okay, we can work with
That's pretty
that.
much right, yeah.
Um, I don't mind Collins in round two, but I think you reached a little on him. But again, I get it. You did need a DT. Um, I have the opposite opinion of you about Martin in round three. I don't hate it, mostly because I trust Salazar for talent when it comes to linebackers. I think he's got a good eye for developing them and drafting them. Um,
Maybe, but
and I
there was better
also
linebackers here at this part, though. I
I
just don't
also
get it.
don't hate Sigel in round five. I think that's an interesting prospect. I think he's got a high ceiling, but the floor, if you don't develop him, his floor is abysmal. That's going to be a horrible pick if his floor is where he stays. Don't like Jordan Watkins. Don't like C.J. West. Jordan James, okay. You've also proven that Shanahan can develop running backs, so I don't
Yeah.
hate this. I think this is okay. Um, but yeah, you get a D plus. You guys, I don't know what the fuck you were doing. I also like, I don't know. Like, you lost so much stuff in the off season. I have no hope for you, and you're going to overpay for
No.
your quarterback.
100%, yeah.
Moving along to the Bay of Tampa. Starting at round one, Amika Ibuka, wide receiver, Ohio State. Then they grab Benjamin Morrison, cornerback, Notre Dame, round two. Jacob Parrish, cornerback, Kansas State, round three. David Walker, edge, Central Arkansas, round four. Elijah Roberts, edge, SMU, round five. And Tez Johnson, wide receiver, Oregon, round seven. I give you a B. I will say I hated the Ibuka pick in the first round. But, after seeing how the draft shook out for you, I am no longer quite as negative about it as I was. I absolutely love Benjamin Morrison in the second round. David Walker in the fourth, absolute steal. I know a lot of people aren't sure about him, but I think he's way better than what people will think. Sneaky good pick to me. Um, Roberts, I think, also sneaky good pick in round five to me. Um, Tez Johnson, okay, he had some moments at Oregon, really sucked at the combine. So you're taking a flyer on him in round seven. This is a if he works out, he works out. If he doesn't, we didn't waste a huge draft pick on him. Um, that's kind of how I feel about it. I love Morrison in round two, though. I think you guys did a good job grabbing a good cornerback there. I have my concerns about Parrish, but again, there were worse picks you could have made. Overall, you did a pretty good job, but you didn't give me ooh, that was good. You gave me okay. So it's a B.
Um, Funnily enough, I'm actually with the same grade of a B, but for different reasons. Um, I actually really like Ibuka. I don't get your dislike for him, but I really like
It is
Ibuka
not that
as
I dislike him as a player. I want to come out and say that. It's
no, yeah.
you've got Godwin and you've got. I mean, do you
Yeah,
really
they're
need?
aging. They're aging. We know that they're not gonna
Yeah,
stick
and
around
that's
for
the
very long. Wide receiver was a need on their board. Um, it is. It's an official need on their board. Um, I'm, you can disagree with it, but it is almost everyone listed it as a need on their board. Um, just because they're worried about the age and let's be honest, injuries that they both have sustained at this point.
yeah, and I'm so that's why I'm not as mad about it as I was.
Yeah,
I felt like you could have gotten a wide receiver in round 2 or round 3 and still been fine. Um,
probably. I don't disagree with that. Um, but I still think this is a decent pick, and I like the player.
I like the
Um,
player as well. If you
yeah,
remember, I
I
had him as one of my top. I think he was my top 3 wide receivers.
yeah, he was my top three. I do also really like the Benjamin Morrison pick. I think that's a steal in the late second round. Um, I actually like Jacob Parrish in the third, because even though he has questions, I think the talent that he potentially has as an upside is worth that third round pick. David Walker, I do have some concerns about, but a late fourth round pick, I'm perfectly fine with. Elijah Roberts, I'm more concerned about, but again, late fifth round pick. How bad could it go? And then Tez Johnson, like you already said, I think he's got some decent upside. And for a seventh, well, a late seventh round pick at 19, I think it's fine. I mean, if it doesn't work out, it's only a seventh round pick, not a big
Yeah,
deal.
100%.
So yeah, I'm at a B. I think they overall did good. I think I do have a couple questions with some players, but they're not in a position of questioning of like, why did you pick him here? It's just more of a, okay, we'll see if it works out. I mean, I have concerns about the player himself, but not necessarily the value for pick. I think they got good value for most of their picks.
Yep, I agree. Moving along, Tennessee. Tennessee. First overall pick, obviously, Cam Ward, QB, Miami. Then they followed that up with Oluwafemi Oladejo, the edge from UCLA in round 2. They got Kevin Winston Jr., a safety from Penn State in round 3. Kamere Dike, wide receiver Florida, round 4. Gunnar Helm, tight end Texas, round 4. Alec Aomanor, wide receiver Stanford in round 4. Jackson Slater, offensive guard Sacramento State in round 5. Marcus Harris, cornerback from Cal in round 6. And Kellel Mullings, running back Michigan, round 6. Boy, somebody was a Superman fan.
Nice.
Chris, your thoughts?
I'm at an A minus. They filled all their needs, and I like most of the players here. So, starting off from the top, Cam Ward, duh pick. I mean, there's no questions that just makes perfect sense for what they need right now. I think Olafwame as an edge is very good as a late second round pick. I think that's fantastic. I think Kevin Winston Jr. is an underrated safety at a third, especially a late third round pick. I think that's great. I think they made an oopsie in the fourth with Chamir Dirk. I just don't get it. I do not understand that pick. But then later in the fourth, they got Gunnar Helm, which I think is pretty good. And then they got to elect Ao Manor, which I actually had higher up than
Mm-hmm.
Shamir. I really like that pick a lot. I think
Absolute
that's a
steal.
steal in the fourth round. Jackson Slater late in the fifth round, steal in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Um, and Marcus Harris and Kyle, is it Kyle? Kale?
Kal-El.
Um, Kal-El, yeah. I think are projects that could pan out, but it's hard to know 100%. So yeah, overall A minus. I think they made a lot of good decisions. They got really good value for most of their picks outside of the one in the very first fourth round pick I didn't like, but everything else I am more than happy with.
Yeah, I gave them an A for this. And it's like I said, Cam Ward, star written all over him. Um, Jackson Slater, very solid starter, more than likely. Ao Manor, completely underrated in a steal in round 4. Um, I think they did very, very well in this draft. Now, can Tennessee develop them?
That's their always biggest
Also, I want
issue,
to
isn't
point
it?
out one UDFA here. They grabbed Xavier Restrepo from
Yep.
Miami as a UDFA. So they got Cam Ward's favorite receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, and this came out after the draft as well, every team he talked to, which I assume is in like the top 5 because everybody knew that's where he was going. But whenever he talked to them, he tried to push, you should really look at Restrepo more.
Yeah.
So when he said that to Tennessee, they didn't draft him, but they did get him as a UDFA. I think that's more to that's to keep Cam happy. I think that's somebody
Keep him
he's
happy.
comfortable
Yeah.
with. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this is an A. I think Tennessee did a really good job drafting. I'm not mad at what they did here. They didn't make any dumb trades. They
Mm-hmm.
stuck and picked with Cam Ward, which I think everybody knew was coming. Yeah, this made sense to me. And finally, we get to the Commanders of Washington. So they start with Josh Connerly Jr., offensive tackle, Oregon, round 1. Trey Amos, cornerback, Ole Miss in round 2. Jalen Lane, wide receiver, Virginia Tech in round 4. Kane Medrano, linebacker, UCLA in round 6. And Jacare Koski Merritt, running back, Arizona, round 7. Didn't have a lot of picks. I give them a B. I think they got Connerly a little early, but again, there wasn't a lot where they grabbed him. They didn't have a lot of other picks at that point. So I get it. Protect your future. I love Trey Amos in round 2. I think they got a good cornerback out of that. That's pretty good. They missed on getting an edge or a safety. They didn't have a lot of picks though. You did all right. I don't hate Jalen Lane in round 4, but I feel like you could have had something better there. And then Madrano and Merritt are just, those are shots in the dark. I don't think Merritt's going to develop into anything Madrano could, but that's a huge project, I think. But you have a defensive coach that I think could develop him. Yeah, that's a B. You did solid work. It wasn't stellar. Protect your new quarterback, protect your new investment, get a new cornerback. Yeah, okay. That's a B.
I'm not far off. I'm at a B plus. I do like Josh Cornley Jr. quite a bit. I think Trey Amos in the late second round is a fantastic corner. I think Jalen Lane as a late fourth rounder is kind of a steal. Actually, I
A
think he's
little
better
bit,
than
yeah.
people expect him. I think people are sleeping on him. I think he'll be better than people expect. I think Madrino. I agree with you. I think he's a project that could turn into something. I don't have a lot of faith in Merritt to turn into anything, but he could. I just don't really believe it. But again, seventh round pick, so it doesn't really
Yeah,
matter
you're
too
not
much.
really losing anything if you lose that.
No. So I'm at a B plus. I think they did well with their incredibly limited amount of picks.
Yep, they didn't have a lot of draft capital, but I think they spent it wisely.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we're at on this draft. We only really disagreed on a couple of teams.
Mostly the North teams.
Mostly the NFC North teams where I was much harsher than you were.
Yep.
But I hope some people understand my reasoning about why I am as harsh as I am about them. Everything else we were pretty close on. I don't think we were really far apart on very many other teams.
No,
So,
not really.
like I said, I'm going to be keeping my wonderful little page here, and at the end of the season, I'm going to go through and I'm going to type up all of the different wondrous things stat wise, and we'll see if I adjust my grades based on how well the rookies play. Well, I don't think we've got anything else to do today. I don't know if we'll be back next week or if we'll take a week off or something, but eventually we're going to come back with the schedules and we're going to guess records for teams. We'll run, probably at that time, we'll run through the Vikings schedule as well, game by game. I don't think we'll do that for every team, but we will run through the Vikings.
That'd take too long.
That'd take too long. We will run through the Vikings schedule like that, highlight some games that we think are going to be fun to watch, and potentially, just kind of talk about what we think for them. And we will definitely try to grade all the other teams and figure out whose schedule will be where, who will be number one in what division, etc. In the meantime, we believe in you if you believe in yourself. And even if you don't believe in yourself, we believe in you You can get it done. Take your mind, think your way through it. It'll be all right. We will say that until next time, you should definitely stay bearded. Peace out. Also, if you like what we do here, click like, click